Hi, my name is Rúben Duarte, I am a GIS Specialist and this is a series on how to create an interactive map from scratch. In this series, you will be able to follow along over 19 episodes with every step I used to transform the image-based map of the Santo Inácio Zoo located in northern Portugal into a fully interactive map. In the first episodes, we will draw all the elements that make up the original zoo map, creating a layered vector file always using the Adobe Illustrator software. Between episodes 1 and 7, we will explore various tools of this software to create multiple layers. Once the entire map is vectorized, we will export the project as an SVG file and begin working on the code using VS Code. We will start by integrating the SVG file into an HTML page for desktop, and we will use various CSS techniques to enhance the style on the final project. Finally, with JavaScript, we will create several functions that will allow us to interact with the map. Now that we are here on the map, we have a navigation bar that we will create right here at the left. We have these links we can click. If we click here, for example, we go to the website of the zoo, the original website of the zoo. Here, for example, we can go directly to a place where we can buy tickets also for the zoo. And we have here a little animation I created for the animals. So if we click on animals, all the animals bounce a little bit from the map. We have the rules here, a pop-up that appears in the middle of the page. We can close these rules pop-up by clicking here on this background, or we can also click on close or in this X to close the page. Then we have several buttons we can click to highlight some information on the map. These informations: gift shop, picnic area, playground, toilets, coffee shop and parking. So if we click, for example, here on coffee shop, the map highlights all the coffee shops from the map. Also I created the same for the toilets, for the parking as well, playground, picnic area and a gift shop, and also the informations right here. Okay, then here on the bottom left we have background music. So we have this clickable button here, so we can turn on or turn off a background music. We also have an animation for the trees. So every time I hover the mouse over the trees, they shake a little bit and emit a sound. And if we hover the mouse over every animal, we have a little box that appears with some information, a photo of the animal, and also this bar that tells us the conservation status of each animal. Okay, so then if we go here to the right, we have these icons of each social network of the zoo. So if we click on each one of these icons, we will go directly to the web page. In this case, it's the Facebook of the Santo Inácio Zoo. And then we also will create these videos. So this, if we click here, a random video for the YouTube page of the zoo will appear here in the middle of the screen as well. So for example, this is episode 8, and if we click again, a random video will pop up from the YouTube video. Okay, so this is what we will create for this tutorial. That's all for today. Now I kindly ask you to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for the release of all the episodes. As you can see, this is the zoo website that we will use for our project. It's the Zoo Santo Inácio, located in north of Portugal, and the objective is to use a style identical to this one. I will try to use the same color palette, for example. I am showing you the website for two reasons. In my opinion, when we do a project of this type, it's important to remain faithful to the original graphical identity. And this is also where we will be able to download the original version of the map that we are going to create. Here on this page we then have access to the Zeus official map, which we can download in PDF format, and that's what we are going to start by doing. Let's start the download to our computer, and then we will need to transform it into an image file, which in my case I will choose PNG. To transform the map I will simply use a browser tool, just by typing PDF to PNG. It can be this first one. Upload your PDF. Let's now wait a second as the software uploads and converts the file. I will now click on download, unpack the files, and let's quickly see the main elements of this map. We can quickly see that we have the representation and legend of all the animals or groups of animals in the zoo, as well as some points of interest such as information, the information house, the gift shop, coffee shops, toilets, and even the rules in the bottom right corner. That's all for this video. In the next one we will use the Adobe Illustrator software to represent the map elements in vector format. Okay, now that we are on Adobe Illustrator, let's go to File, click on Place, and let's start by importing the image that we download and convert on the previous video. Let's click on Place and left click to place the map on our canvas. Let's hit on the selection tool and let's adjust the image. So press Shift and then we can drag the image so it stays on the same resolution. Let me center the map on the page. Let's see if I can find the center right here. And let's rename this layer. For this project it's important to give names to all layers so that we can later manipulate the elements of the interactive map. Next I will create a new layer by clicking on this button in the bottom right corner. This will be the layer where the main background elements will be represented with a light brown color on the map. So I will name it main background. To start creating the main background, we need to access the pen tool located in the Tools tab. It's this one. Let's choose a place to start and zoom in that place. So for that we click on Z and we start dragging the mouse to the place we want to start. For example, right here at the top. Let's start drawing the edges of the map. That is the layer that is at the bottom of the image. To do this, we can start by defining the stroke color. I'll choose this black one, and we can start by clicking on the left button of the mouse. We can start drawing. To make these curves, just keep the mouse pressed and adjust accordingly. Since this process is quite repetitive, I will quickly advance the video to the final part of the main background design. You can see that I drew lines over the trees right there, which is not a problem, since the trees will be on a layer above this one. To close the geometry, make sure to connect the ending vertex with the starting vertex. And let's change the fill color to light brown and remove the outline. And to do this, we just need to choose the eyedropper tool and select the desired color. I will now block the editing of this layer and toggle the visibility of the PNG image. And now let's proceed to create the second background of the map. Let's then draw the lands identified in green, which represents the places where the animals are. Let's now click on Create New Layer again in the bottom right corner. And we can rename it a layer, for example, as second background. And we can be a little more specific, dash grass, for example. And we need to change this one as well to main background dash send. That's it. Before we start drawing the second layer, let me move this to the top and move the percentage of the opacity. Do this by clicking on Properties and changing the opacity value. In my case, I will choose 30%. Let's select the layer we want to work on and use the pen tool again to draw all the terrain represented in green. Let me zoom in the map, change the stroke to the black color and the fill color to none. And now we can start drawing all the polygons again. I will move this part forward once again and just make sure to contour all the elements with the exception of the trees. After we have all the elements created, we need to give them a color again, but this time I will do it differently. I'll start by using the selection tool to select all the elements I want to color, but it's super important that only the desired layer is active, so all the others must be locked with the locker. This time I will click right there on Fill and choose the color manually. I will select this green and click OK and remove the outline. As we can see, our map starts to take on some shape. That's all for this video, I hope you liked it. Next time we will continue in Adobe Illustrator drawing trees, water bodies and the tunnels that are represented on the original map. As I said in the previous video, today I will proceed with the drawing of the trees, water bodies and some tunnels that are represented on the original map. I'm going to start by defining the color of the second background that I drew in the previous video. I will go maybe with this green. It looks nice to me. Let me just increase the opacity of the Basemap to compare these two layers. And then I will create a new layer to start drawing the trees. Let me block this Basemap and create a new layer, and I will name it Trees. I'm going to hold down the Z key and zoom in on one of the trees. They are all the same. I'm going also to draw with an outline, and then I can remove it later at the end. I will set this outline as black, and I will remove the fill color to no color. And with the pen tool, I will do exactly the same as I did in the previous video. As we can see, the trees have 4 different layers. This first one looks like some leaves, these 3 leaves. Okay, and all the trees look the same in the map, so we only need to draw one and place them in the correct location. Okay, so the first layer is done. I'm going now to start the second one. And I'm going to try to make the ends a little random, just like in the original drawing. Okay, so I will just make it like this, also with the pen tool. And let's finish with this third one. I know that in the original the trees have 4 layers, but I'm just going to draw 3 because I think it's enough for the desired effect. Okay, so we just need to do this. Okay, and it's done. Now I will give different colors to the 3 different layers, so I'll just select the trees and change the fill color, maybe to a darker green. And we also have to change the order in which the layers are arranged within the main layer. So that is, the 3 leaves that we initially drew have to go over the other 2, okay, like this. And now I will select the other 2 layers individually and change the color. Okay, so let's start with this one. And let's select a lighter green like this. And let's remove also the outline. Okay. Let's actually change the color of all the parts using the original colors. Okay, so I will just select each layer individually, and I will use this tool right here and select the color I want. Okay, so I will do this to all the layers. Okay, let's do this to the middle as well. Okay, like this. Before I start duplicating, I'm just going to group the 3 layers, so I just need to select them, right click and click group. And now we just need to click on Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste, and just drag and arrange the size of each tree and place them on the correct location. I will now advance this part ahead, since at this stage it is only necessary to duplicate and place the elements. Okay, it's finished. As we can see, the map is already coming to life. And let's now draw some water bodies that are represented on the original map. Okay, so let me drag the base map to the bottom and block all the layers, create a new layer, and I will name it water bodies. And just like we did previously, we will use the pen tool to trace all the elements. Let me bring the base map back to the top, and let's start tracing the water bodies, just like we did on the trees, selecting an outline color and no fill color. Okay, we need to first select the layer we want to draw, so we need to select these water bodies, and we can start tracing every element. In this layer there will be some cases in which we will have to do a small manipulation to the drawing, but I will explain it right away. Once again, I will skip this part as it's a repetitive process, but let's stop here for a few moments in this section, since we need to do something different. Go into the menu, select this circle, and we need to adjust the size clicking on the Shift button. Let's click Ctrl C and Ctrl V to duplicate, reduce the size a little bit, like this. And now let's select the pen tool once again and draw 2 lines connecting the 2 circles. Okay, so 1 line, let's draw another line. Perfect. Now let's select the 3 elements we just draw. Let's now select this shape builder tool and just drag the mouse on the 3 elements to merge all the elements into one element. Okay. In the main lake we will also need to do a little manipulation. So let's start by drawing these outlines as we did previously. Let's now select the second background and with the pen tool draw the Lemur Island. Okay, so let's just trace this element as well. Now select the island we just drew and with the eyedropper tool select the desired color. So in this example, of course, we will use the same color as we did for all the second background layers. Okay, so this is green. Let's move on to the next water body, but first I'll just change the color to black and see if there are missing elements. Okay, I can see that this is not drew yet. In this small lake, we have to do the same process that we did on the previous lake. So draw the blue area first, and then draw the island onto the second background layer. Okay. And to finish, I will just change the color back to blue. I forgot to lock the second background layer, so let's first lock this layer, select all the water bodies and change it back to blue. Let's try this light blue to see how it goes. Okay, maybe a little darker. Let's choose maybe this one. Okay, this one looks good. And finally, we will now draw the tunnels, as I said at the beginning of this video, okay? So to do this, we just need to do the same thing. We just need to create a new layer that I will name it tunnels. I will start by selecting the black line to start tracing this tunnel. And I will also make the second background visible, so we have some element to snap. Okay, so let's start drawing right here in the middle and snap this line into the second background layer, right here as well. Okay. To make this job easier, we could actually reduce the opacity of the element underneath. Okay, so but in this example also it's just a simple tunnel. We can do this way. Okay, so the first tunnel is made. So now we just need to do the second one. That we are going to use a different approach. Okay. As we can see, this tunnel looks like a circle divided in two. So in this case, I will draw a circle and then I will cut it in half. Okay. So how can we do this? Using the circle tool, just draw a circle on the project. Let's adjust the size, always pressing the shift button. Duplicate the circle to make the second one. And adjust it as well, like I'm doing right here on this project. Okay, this way looks good. Now grab the pen tool. Okay, draw two lines, snapping into the second background. Draw another line right here to make to divide these circles in two. Okay, then we just need to select this new element. Let me block all the layers. Okay, select, use the Shaper Builder tool. It's not working, so to solve this, go to Object right there at the top ribbon, click on Path and then Join. Okay, like this. Then we can, with the Path Builder, click to select different shapes. Okay. Now just select the parts you want to remove and click on Delete on your keyboard. This one as well, and this final half moon as well. Okay, and the tunnel is done. To finish, we just need to draw the last tunnel. So there are 3 tunnels in this map. So let's move back to near the wallabies right here. And we just need to draw this simple line like we did previously. Okay, so just select the tunnels layer, and with the pen tool, okay, we need to make it visible first, and we just need to draw this tunnel, also snapping the vertex into the second background layer. Okay, like this. Let's close this shape, and we just need to select the 3 tunnels and change the color to gray, like in the original map. Okay, so let's set this as gray, and it's done. Okay, that's all for today's video. In the next one we will draw some more elements that make up this map, such as the coffee shops, the small houses, the gift shop, the sunshades, among other elements. Okay, so stay tuned and I see you on the next one. So in today's video we will draw some more elements of this map. Let's create a new layer and I will name it coffee shop. Now in this circle element I will right click with my mouse to change the shape I want to use. So in this case I will use this rectangle, and for the color I will use this eyedropper tool to select the same color as the original map. Let me draw a rectangle, then we can rotate it like this, and using the select tool we can also move it. Okay, I will make it a little more darker color so we can see what we are doing. Okay, so if it's the same color it's difficult to see what we are doing. And let's repeat this process to all these orange elements that we called coffee shop. Okay, we can also use, in this case, the pen tool. It's actually your choice. It's actually the same in this example. Okay, that's it. Let's now draw these small houses that are spread across the map, also with the orange color. Let me create a new layer. This one I will name it houses. Let's select this layer. We'll set this red, for example. I think it will look good. And let's start drawing these small houses. Also, always trying to snapping into the second background layer. Okay, so we have these lines that help us draw this correctly. Okay, once again let's move forward since the process is always the same. Okay, next I'm going to draw this building in yellow, which I will name this as gift shop. So let me create a new layer for this element as well. I will call this gift shop. Let me block the houses as well, and let me maybe change this to this purple color, and with the pen tool let me just trace this element as well. Okay, and it's done. It's the only gift shop in the zoo, so this part is done. I'm now going to draw the coffee shop terraces, also in a new layer. So let me just create a new layer as well. This one will be terraces. The pen tool once again. I will select a brown color for the terraces, similar to the original map, and just trace the terraces like this. Okay, I think we have also one more terrace in this case, one or two actually. Let me see. Okay, we have this one as well, and I think one at the top. Okay, let me trace this one as well, and this third one as well. Okay, we also have the spider house at the bottom of the map, this one right here. So in a new layer I will just trace this building, maybe with a different color. I will use a darker brown like in the original map. I will now draw the buildings in blue, which I will call other houses, so that is the place in the park where informations can be requested. Okay, let me create a new layer. I will call it other houses. And once again, I will trace these two buildings, okay? In a separate layer, of course. That's the first one. And the second one as well. I will use a similar color, so the buildings will be blue as well. Okay, this one looks good. Before we move on to the next layer, let's see how the map is looking. Okay, let me see how the map is going. The map is rapidly coming to life. And now let's finish the video with the creation of the sunshades. Okay, let's create a new layer. I will call this as sunshades. Let me zoom in one of the areas that we have sunshades. Drag the base map to the top. Let's start with this one right here. Let's start by drawing a circle and adjust the size as we did previously. And so that the drawing doesn't come so complex, on the original map each sunshade had 12 divisions, but in this case I will only create 8, but the result will be equally good, okay? Let me change the color of the trace to black, and with the pen tool, let's start dragging lines right here in the circle. First this one vertically, another one horizontally. Let me now with the selection tool select these two black lines. Ctrl C and Ctrl V to duplicate, and then we just rotate 45 degrees to the left or to the right, it's the same, like this, okay? Now select all the shape, and with the shape revealer tool, we just select these pies, okay? Individually, like this, and then we can apply different colors to each one of them. I'm now just removing some lines that weren't applied when I used the shape revealer tool. This is common to occur. Let me set the trace as no color and change the color of the sunshades to white and to red like in the original map, okay? Like this. Once again, now we just need to duplicate these elements and then place it in their correct location. This was what was outlined for today's video. In the next one we will continue in Adobe Illustrator designing the various icons of the original map like toilet, the picnic, playground and medical care icons. For today we have the design of several icons from the original map, the toilets icon, the picnic area and playground, the car park and finally the medical care icon. We can start by creating a new layer, which will be the toilet icon layer. So for that I will click this icon right here and give it a different name, WC for example. Let me just zoom in one of these icons. So let's start with designing a circle. Let me select it and adjust the size. Something like this. Let me put it aside. And now let's draw the figures. Let's start by drawing the head, creating a circle again. Ctrl C and Ctrl V to duplicate this one and place it in this figure here. And now let's proceed to draw the body. For the body I will use the pen tool and trace the best as I can, because the image is too pixelized, but I think I can work around this. Let's now finish with the legs, using also the pen tool. I'll just try to make a rectangle. Let me duplicate this one and place it on this right side like this. Let me now use one of the legs to make this line right in the middle of the circle, this division. I will also change the color of these layers, place these in the middle and adjust the size, something like this. And now I will just draw the figure of the man. Okay, so I will use as well the pen tool and just trace the body of the man. Okay, now that both figures are done, I will just place these inside the circle, place these two icons inside the circle, something like this. Group everything together, both the figures and the circle. I will use this shape builder tool to differentiate the figures and the circle. Let me zoom in once again, and now let's change the color of this icon. I will use the same colors as the original map, so we can start by these figures. Okay, just select them and then use the color white. I will use the color white for the characters, and this gray for the circle. Okay, so I'll just ungroup it and then change the color, and now we can group again. Okay, and now we just need to repeat or duplicate this icon 5 times, because we have 5 places with toilets. Okay, so one here, another one here, there's one right on the entrance, and the last one is right at the top here. Okay, so the toilets icon are done. Now we can move to the next one. So the next one will be the children playground. So once again, let's create a new layer. I'll just block this toilet one, create a new layer. I will call it children park, for example. And since this image is very pixelated, I will use an online image to represent this symbol. I'm going to do that right away, but first let's draw the icon with the picnic table, which is just some rectangles horizontally and diagonally. So for that I just use this rectangle tool and just copy, rotate and paste it like this to have our icon table. Okay, and then I just did a circle like we did on the icon from the toilets. Then select all, group them together and change the color. Returning to the playground icon, I will go to Google to look for an icon that represents a park similar to this one, but with a higher image quality. I will paste this image into the project and trace over it as I have been doing. I'm moving these parts forward since it's something I've been doing since the previous videos. I hope you don't mind. But let's take some time here doing something we haven't seen yet, which is rounding the edges of a shape. To do this, right here on the polygon, just drag these points here like I'm doing here. Okay, these 2 points. I will now duplicate this shape and rotate it. And I will do the same for this part here, so the entrance of this small tower. I'm also going to draw a line here in the middle with the pen tool, just like we did in one of the previous videos when we drew one of the tunnels. All that's left to do is select this shape and the line I just created, and then use the shape builder tool to divide this shape into 2 parts. Always selecting with the shift pressed, select the shape builder tool, and then delete the bottom one in this case. Okay, that's it. Let's proceed designing this playground. Let's select this rectangle tool once again and draw this rectangle, this main rectangle here for the tower. And by the way, I'm going to reverse what I did previously, deleting the tower entrance and leaving it without any color or shape. Okay, so I will just select this main rectangle and the door I draw later and use the shaper builder tool. Select the door and this part, and I will delete the door. Let's finish the playground drawing the rest of the parts. This part here, the roof as well, drawing a rectangle, a triangle actually, and finally the slide, okay? Always using the pen tool. Let me now copy the circle from the picnic table and paste it here. Change the color of the playground and the slide to white. Move the playground to the top and paste it or place it inside this circle and group them together. Let me place it in the right location like this, and this icon is finished. I'm just now going to fix the names I gave to these layers and organize this better, so I will call this playground and picnic area and change the layers inside of it as well. So this one will be the playground and this one picnic area. Click OK. It's very important that each one of these layers have a unique name, okay? To finish this video, I will create a brand new layer to draw this medical care sign, okay? So right here at the bottom, create new layer. This one will be called medical care, and this one is very easy. I will just copy this circle here from the picnic area and paste it in this layer. I will just select the layer and paste it. I used also the eyedropper to select the color I wanted, so in this case the red color. And now for the cross is super easy. There are just two rectangles, one vertically and one horizontally. Okay, select them both, change the color to white, and place it right in the middle of the circle. Okay, group them together like this and place it on the correct location. As you can see, the map is almost completely drawn, but we're only missing the animals. So in the next one, this will be the main focus, as we will use a very interesting technique to draw the animals. Let's start by creating a new project, going to File and clicking on New. I will keep a width and height of 20 centimeters and let's create a new project. Now what I'm going to do is convert PNG or JPEG images into vector format, and for that I will need to search for an image. I will start with the first animal, which is meerkat, and I will search for meerkat icon in this case. I will choose an image that fits what I want to represent. Maybe I'll try this one here in black. I will copy the image and paste it into the new project. Let me increase the size a little bit, pressing Shift. And we will need to open the Image Trace tool. To do that, simply click on Windows in the top bar and then select Image Trace. Once we have this tool open, we start by selecting the image, clicking on Preview to see the updates as we make them. In View, choose the option Tracing Result with Outlines, and after we're satisfied with the result, uncheck Preview and then click on Trace. After this, I'll go to Object, Expand, and click OK. Right-click on the image and select Ungroup until the software no longer allows it. And then I will delete the layers that I don't need. I only want the drawing of the meerkat without the borders or the background of this image. Like this. As we can see here, we only have one layer. Let's select the image, Ctrl C or go to Edit and click Copy, and then paste into our main project. I will reduce the size as it's too large and position it in the correct spot. And I will also change the color to white. Okay, so I will select the meerkat and change it to white right here. Obviously, we need also to create a separate layer for each animal, so I will delete this from here and paste it into a new layer. So I'll create a new layer and call it Animals. Let me paste the meerkat into this layer and place it in the right spot. Just like in the previous videos, I won't show the process for every animal, so let's skip to the last animals as the process was the same for each one. This process took me over an hour to complete, but notice that one of the things I did was change the color from white to black, as I think it gives the animals more emphasis. I'm going to draw the last animal, which will be a pig. Notice that I added some farm animals that weren't in the original map to fill a space that seemed too empty for me. So again, let's copy this image and paste it into this project. Let me just delete these links icons and paste the pig. Trace the image, object, expand, click OK, ungroup, ungroup again, and delete what you don't want. Now just copy the pig and paste it into the original project, so the map file. And I will place it here, near the horse and near the rabbit. That's all for today. In the next tutorial, we'll finish the Adobe Illustrator series with the crucial step of renaming all the layers and exporting the final map as an SVG file. In the next videos we'll start working with code, so it's essential that the project is as organized as possible from the start. An SVG file can be quite confusing at first, since it's made up of various coordinates with thousands of numbers. So, to start off on the right foot, let's rename all the elements in our file, and later in HTML these will be translated into IDs. In the previous videos we had already named some of the layers and sublayers. The general idea is that each distinct element should have a unique name. For instance, within the animals group, each animal will have a different name. However, for identical elements like the trees, for example, we will assign the same name to all of them. Later on in HTML, we can always change the names again if needed. To rename each of the layers, just go to Layers and follow the same steps you see on the screen. To close the Adobe Illustrator chapter, let's now export the final map. Let me first save the project. And now I will click again on File, Export, Export As. Here choose the folder, the type is SVG file, select Use Artboards and click Export. Here I will keep everything set to default. Here is the SVG file, and if we double click, it will open in the browser. That's all for this video. In the next tutorial, we'll start with Visual Studio Code and use HTML, CSS and JavaScript to transform a static map into an interactive one. Let's begin by opening the code editor, which in this case will be Visual Studio Code. This software is free. Just search for VS Code or Visual Studio Code on Google and download it. Let's close the welcome page and create a folder on desktop to store all the elements of our interactive map. Let's click New, Folder and give it a name. I will call it Zoo Interactive Map YouTube tutorial. Let's go back to VS Code and start by saving this workspace in the folder we created on the desktop. I will click on File and Save Workspace As. I will choose the folder we just created and I will maintain this name and click Save. And now I will create three files, an HTML file, a CSS and a JavaScript file. To do this, I will once again go to File and click on New Text File, File again, Save As. I will save in the folder and I will call it index.html. Click Save. And notice that the name and icon have changed here in this tab. Let's create a new file, save it. This time I will call this style.css. And the last one will be JavaScript, so new text file, save as. And this one will be named script.js and click Save. As you can see, we have a bunch of languages we can choose from. In general terms, for those not too familiar with this, the HTML file will contain the SVG file, buttons, text and images that will appear on the screen. The CSS file will be where we apply styles to all the elements. And with JavaScript, we'll be able to interact with the map, like making the trees move, opening and closing pop-ups, and viewing information about the animals, for example. I'll start by creating an HTML boilerplate. To do this, just type an exclamation mark, and then press enter. And this will be the HTML base for our map. Although we have created 3 files and saved them in the same folder, we still need to tell the program that the CSS styles and JavaScript code will be applied to this HTML file. To do this, we need to create what is called a link. I'll start by linking the style.css file. To do this, before the title tag, I will write link. In fact, all HTML tags start with this symbol. Then I'll write link rel equals, followed by double quotes. Inside these double quotes, I will type style sheet, like this. Then href equals double quotes again, and then I'll specify the CSS file location. Since this file is in the same folder as this HTML file, I only need to write the file name. To close an HTML tag, I need to place this slash, followed by the greater than symbol. I will now rename the project to Zoo Interactive Map, right here in the title tag, like this. And now let's link the script.js to this HTML file. After the final tag, I will write script src equals, followed by double quotes with the JavaScript file name inside. And then close the tag. Actually, in this case, it's a bit different. First, we need to close the opening tag, and then we can close it with a slash followed by script, and then using the greater than symbol. I'm now going to place the SVG file inside our HTML within this body tag. But first, I'll need to move the SVG file into this new folder I just created. Here it is. I just took the SVG file I exported in the previous video and pasted into this new folder. Now going to File and clicking on Open File, we can open the SVG file in VS Code. Click Save, and we need to allow this untrusted file in this workspace, okay? As you can see in the previous video, I explained that it's crucial for the SVG file to be well organized with all the layers correctly named. This is important because these types of files contain thousands and thousands of letters and numbers, as you can see here. To place this file inside the HTML, I will copy all these numbers and letters and paste them within the body tag. So I just need to select everything, click on Ctrl C, and inside this body tag, click Ctrl V to paste it. There's a way to make this file more readable. Inside VS Code, we need to install an extension called Prettier. I just saved it by pressing Ctrl S, and as you can see, the code is way more readable. To install the Prettier extension, simply click on Extensions right here, search for Prettier, and then follow the installation steps. For me, it's an indispensable tool. I'll close the Prettier extension and the SVG file. And before we continue, we can actually take a look at the SVG file now that it's all formatted. Here we can see the colors we defined in Adobe Illustrator, and also we have the project name here. We actually need to remove that because otherwise, wherever we hover the map, a small text box saying Project Zoo will appear. So let's remove this. And as you can see, I have all the names I assigned in the previous video. These will be incredibly helpful as we finalize this map. Let's now move to the CSS file and set up the basic styling for the body. Let's type body, curly brackets, and let's type margin, colon, 0, semicolon, then enter, height, 100 VH or viewport height, This makes the element occupy the full height of the browser window. Then margin left will be 100 pixels. Font family, it needs to be Arial, Helvetica, sans serif. Next, display, flex, and overflow hidden. Overflow hidden makes it so that we don't have access to the scroll bar. Let's finish with background color, and I will use this code to set the color of the background as a light brown. So the color will be #B89873. I will click Ctrl S to save, and let's open the HTML file to see how the map is going. Let's double click the index.html. So we now have the map with a brown background. If we go back to the HTML file and add a title again into the SVG, not this one, but the title of the SVG, this one here, I will type zoo for example. And if we go back to the map, first we need to refresh. We see that a small text box will appear here, and that's why we remove the title from the SVG. I will keep the SVG without a title, so let me delete this zoo word. Another handy tool is Live Server. Just a moment ago you saw that I had to refresh the page for the map to update. With Live Server extension we don't need to manually refresh. Whenever we save the file in VS Code, our web page updates automatically. To install this extension, simply click on this icon again and search for Live Server. There are hundreds of tutorials on YouTube that show how to set up this tool. Once the tool is installed, you just need to click on Go Live right here at the bottom. An error is appearing because I haven't defined a folder for my workspace. I'll fix this right away. I'll just need to go to File, Add Folder to Workspace, and then I just need to choose the folder I have my workspace. Choose Yes in this message, and now if we click Go Live, this should work. Let's wait a second for it to open. Let me close this one. Let's repeat. Okay, Live Server. Live Server is opening now. And that's it. So now if we save our files in HTML, CSS or JavaScript, this web page will be automatically refreshed. In fact, I can even show you. Let me type a title here, and I didn't refresh the page, but the name appears automatically. That's all for today's video. In the next one, we'll start creating elements for our project, specifically a sidebar menu with clickable buttons. To start creating the navigation bar, I'll go to the top of the HTML page, and after the body tag I'll start by typing nav with the class name sidebar and then close the tag. Inside this nav tag I will create a div with the class name logo. Here we will place the project logo, and within the logo div we'll set the image source with the location of the logo image file and then give it a name of logo. Let me create an image tag here and insert the path to the folder that holds the image. Let me check the image location, And since it's in the same folder as our workspace, we only need to specify the name, that in this case is logo.png. As you can see, the logo is already inserted in the project. And if we right click and go to inspect, we can see that the logo is indeed inside the navigation bar. Let's go back to VS Code and create a UL section after this div tag here. Let me just correct this line of code and close it with this div in this line. After this div, I will create a UL tag with the class name navlinks and close the tag. Inside this UL, I will now create the links. To do this, I will write LE and then an A tag where we can place an hyperlink. Then I will say that target equals blank. So this means that the link will open in a new tab, and then we can close the A tag. The text for this link in this case will be website. If we go back to the browser, we can see that we have the first item in our navigation bar, and we can even click to test it. And since we set target equals blank, every time this link is clicked, a new tab opens. To finish this first link, we just need to define the page that will open after the link is clicked. So in this case it's website, so let's search for the official website of the zoo. Let's copy the link of this page and then paste it here within the href. If we go back to the browser and click this link again, we'll see that the website opens in a new tab. Now let's define the next link in the list. I will just copy this line of code and paste it on the line below. In this case, the href won't be a link because in one of the upcoming videos we will set up an interactivity for when this button is clicked. So let me just assign an ID. I will call it animals-link, remove the target and set the name to animals. Let's follow the same process as before. The href of this one will be cardinal rules. The ID will be rules-link and the name will be rules. For the next one, let's copy the line above because we want a link that in this case will redirect the visitor directly to a ticket purchase page. The name of this button will be tickets. And now we just need to change the link, so let's go back to the zoo's website, find the page where tickets can be purchased, this one, and paste the URL inside the href of our HTML. Next I will create another line of code which will have an href called cardinal info, an ID set to info-link, and the name will be informations. The next one will be gift shop, which will also be a clickable event. One for picnic area, and all these clickable elements need to have either an ID or a class name. We will also create one for the playground, the toilets, for the coffee shops, and finally a button for parking. I will now press Ctrl+S to save and see how this navigation bar is coming along. We can see that all the links are set up, but we need to apply some CSS styles, and that's what we are going to start doing now. Let's start by styling the sidebar. So in the CSS file, we will write dot sidebar, open curly braces. Let's start defining the width with 300 pixels. The height will be 100, viewport height, and background color, not origin but color, and the code will be -333. We can see that we now have this rectangle on the left side of the screen, but let's go back to the CSS and set, for example, the position as fixed. Left will be 0. This will align the bar completely to the left. Padding will be 20 pixels. And I will add also a box shadow on the right side of the navigation bar. And I will set this box shadow as 2 pixels, 0, 5 pixels, and choose a shadow color, which in this case will be a dark tone. Now let's complete it with the box sizing. That will be border dash box. Let's go back to the map. And we can already see that this navigation bar looks much more appealing now. We can immediately see that something is quite off, that is the logo. We will need to adjust its position and size, and that's exactly what we are going to do right now. On the CSS, since this logo is inside the sidebar, we will define .sidebar.logo with curly braces and type display flex and justify content center. And next, we need to apply also the styles to the image itself, which means targeting the image tag. For this, I will write once again .sidebar.logo and then image. Open curly braces, and I will set max width 50% and height will be auto. And let's see how it looks now. We can see that the logo is now in a much more appealing position. And now let's change the styles of our links. So let's go back to the CSS and write .sidebar.nav-links and then set list style none to remove the bullets from the list, those dots before the names. Let me just correct here by adding the dash here. Padding will be 0. Margin will be 0 as well. Display flex. Flex direction will be column. And justify content will be center. And then to adjust the available height for the links, accounting for the logo, we will set height will be calc 100 view height port minus 80 pixels. Like this. Now let's define the styles for the individual links by writing .sidebar.nav-links LE with curly braces, and we'll need to say that margin bottom will be 20 pixels. This will give 20 pixels of space between each link. Next, we will write .sidebar.nav-links and then A to set text styles. And we will say that text decoration will be none to remove the underline of the text. Color will be white. Font size 18 pixels. Display block, and let's see how it's looking now. It's really coming together now. Let's now enhance the style by adding padding 2 pixels, border radius 4 pixels, and then transition background color 0.3 seconds, and this so that when we over the text, the color changes in 0.3 seconds. Okay, so we need just to create the transition. To create the transition, we need to type .sidebar.navlinks A, then over, curly braces, and we need to define the color that will change. So background color, and I will set the RGB with the code 82, 179, and 112. And let's return to the map. And we can now see that every time we hover over the text, we get this super interesting transition effect. For example, if we change this value from 0.3 seconds to 3 seconds, the color will take much longer to appear, as you can see. Let's go back to the previous value and let's improve the effect. Let's add color RGB with the values 252, 234 and 190. This way the map style matches what happens on the official zoo website. In fact, we can even confirm that ourselves. Let's go back to VS Code and let's change one thing in the HTML file, because when we added spacing between the links, the effect didn't activate because I forgot to place the LE tag before the A tag. So we just need to place this LE before the A tag. After fixing everything, we'll see that links now will have vertical spacing of 20 pixels between each other, as we previously typed on the CSS file. Here we go. It looks way more interesting. If we go back to CSS, this part of the code wasn't active before, but now it's fixed. And now we can also center the text within the navbar by simply adding text align center here on the sidebar navlinks A. Okay, so text align center, and if we go back to the map, we can see that all the links are now centered. That's all for this video. In the next one, we will apply an effect to the map whenever the animals button is clicked. To apply an effect to the animals whenever the animals button is clicked, I will start by searching for the word animals in VS Code. It will be based on this animals ID that we will apply the script. I will go to the styles page, and here I will call the ID animals path, and I will use the cardinal to call for the ID. And for the styles, let's type transform origin 50%. This will make the transformation to be applied to the center of the element. I will now define keyframes for each of the animals. I will use at keyframes and call it scale up and down, as I want the animals to increase in size and then return to their original size. To achieve this at the start of the animation, the animals should be at their original scale, so the scale will be 1. Then at 50% of the animation, the animals will grow in size by 0.05, so scale 1.05. And at the end of the animation, the animals will return to their original size, so at 100% of the animation, the scale needs to be 1 again. Now that we have the animation defined, we need to apply it to the animals. So to do this, we just need to call scale.animation, open brackets, and then I will say the animation scale up and down 0.3 seconds, so the animation takes 0.3 seconds. Let me just correct this. Let me put a dot right in the beginning of this style, like this. So to do this, when I click on the animals button, I want them to increase in size, but I also want them to grow one at a time with a predefined time gap, so not all at once. Let's return to VS Code, and to do this, we need to animals path, then nth dash of dash type, and I will say 1 open brackets, and then animation delay 0 seconds. So this will be the first animal. The 1 represents the animal number 1, and we can check the HTML to confirm which one is the first. In this case it's the meerkat. This will be the second, this is the third, here is the fourth, and so on. Let's apply the style to each of the animals, giving the same time gap of 0.02 seconds between each one. So here's how it can be done. I'll just copy and paste the previous code, and I just need to change the number of the animal. So in this case, this will be the animal number 2, and now 0.02 seconds. This animation will be applied to this one, tropical world, and then we need to do this to each one of the animals. So let me just copy this line of code here, change this to 3, and now the animation delay, instead of being 0.02 seconds, it needs to be 0.04. Then the fourth line will be the fourth animal, and here 0.06. And we continue doing this until the last animal. I will leave you a challenge. How could this be done automatically without having to repeat the code over and over again? After we have this part completed, we will finally start with JavaScript and finish our code. I will start by writing 2 slashes to comment on my code, so I know which part of the project it refers to. Here I will name it Animals Interaction, and start the code by typing document dot get element by ID animals dash link, so this refers to the button, and when this button is clicked I want a function to be triggered, so we need to use add event listener, then click, and then function, and this is where our function will come in. I will now define a variable by writing const paths, meaning path will be our variable, and this path will refer to the animal's path, that is each of the SVG elements corresponding to all the animals. So we just need to type document that query selector all, and then typing these animals and then path, like we did before on CSS. Like this. I will now create a new function called reset animation, and this function will be used to clear the animations for the animals. So it goes through all the SVG elements, so the paths, and then removes the scale animation class from each one. This stops or resets the animation, so this can be useful to ensure that if we want to restart the animation, it begins from the start instead of continuing from where it left off. So let's start by typing const reset animation, and then add this arrow function. And inside this arrow function we need to call paths dot for each. So for each path, so this is the path that we have in our HTML. Then another arrow, open brackets, give it a space, and then path dot class list, and we need to remove, so we need to remove the animation. So type scale dash animation. I think it's scale dot animation, but I will change this to dot scale dash animation like this. So the animation it's removed. Next, I will define a new function that I will call setTimeout. This function will delay the application of the scale dash animation class to all path elements. So I will use 50 millisecond delay. So this will loop through each path element in the path array using for each, and then adds the scale animation class to each one. This triggers the CSS animation that we previously did, and the purpose of this code is to ensure that the animation starts cleanly after a slight delay, often following a reset of animations. So to do this, we just need to set timeout, and this will be an arrow function, and inside of it I will type paths dot for each, and path as an argument, another arrow, and then path dot class list. Now we need to add scale animation, and need to define also a 50 millisecond delay in the line. It's not here, it's in the line 14. So after the brackets we need to type 50 milliseconds. So let me just remove the 50 from here and type it on the line 14 right here. To finish, we just need to call the function reset animation right here in this line 16. So reset animation, not frame, but just reset animation, open brackets. As you can see, while I was coding, the animation wasn't working, and I spent some time figuring out the issue. If you look at line 5, the function name is in a darker green because it's not the correct name. So the issue is simply a typo error. So instead of reset animation, it should be reset animation. So fixing this will make the animation work. Let's now check our map and see if everything is working as expected. So if the animation works, after I click on this animals button, the animals should increase in size by 0.05 on a scale, and one after another. So let's click, and it's not working, and let's try to figure it out why. I will start by checking if the link between the HTML and the JavaScript file is correct. So let's go to the HTML, right to the bottom, and let's see. This seems fine to me. Let's go back to JavaScript and let's see. I think I've already figured out the error, so I'll just confirm in the HTML. And of course, as you can see, we have this cardinal animal, so we need to change the script here. So path needs to be document.querySelector all cardinal animals path, and now the code should work. Let's go back to the map again, click Animals, and there we go. The function is working. That's all for today's video. In the next one, I will add a pop-up with the zoo rules that appears whenever the rules button is clicked. To create a pop-up with the zoo rules, we will use the photograph of this Asiatic lion, which will be positioned on the right side of the element, and on the left side we will include some general information about the park. In VS Code, let's start by placing this element after the SVG, here at the end of the page, and we will begin by opening a div element with a class name overlay. Then an ID of overlay as well, and then close the div. After this div, we will create a new one with a class name Popup and an ID of Popup as well. And then inside this Popup div, we want another div, and the class name will be content-container. Inside this new div, we will create now another one with a class name TextContainer. And to finalize, we create an h2 with text rules inside the zoo. After this h2 and still inside the TextContainer div, we create a p element or a paragraph element where we will write the main rules of the zoo. Let's start with the first one. Do not feed the animals. They are fed daily with a specific diet. Let's move to the second one, create another p element, and the rule number 2 will be don't bang on the glass, shout, or tease the animals. You could disturb them and prevent them from showing their natural behavior. Then for the third paragraph, let's type don't go beyond the safety barriers of green areas or animal habitats. Let's create another one. This will be the number 4. And this rule will be don't throw garbage on the ground. Put the waste in the bins throughout the zoo. After these 4 rules, I want a general rule for the zoo, so I will create another p element, but this time I will give it a class name because I want to add some styles later. So this class name will be general rules, and the type, the text that I will type will be failure to comply with the rules in force may lead to the expulsion of the visitor. I will now create a location where the Asiatic lion image will be inserted. For that, I will place the image after the final div of the text container, and inside or after this final div, I will insert an image tag with a source attribute and then add the image path to this source. Then between the last and the second to last div, I will then create two buttons. These buttons will close the pop-up. So the first will have the ID of close-pop-up with the text close. And the second one will be a button to close the pop-up at the top of the element. And this element will have an ID of page-close-button, and then the text will be an X. We have the HTML defined already, so let's check what appears in the browser. We can see that the elements are there, but we need to apply some CSS styles, which is what we are going to do now. Here in CSS, we'll go to the end of the page and apply styles to the overlay first. The overlay will be a screen that appears after clicking the Rules button, and it will serve to allow us to close the pop-up without the need to click the Close button or the X that we defined earlier. So to style this overlay, I will set the display to none because I don't want this overlay to be visible. The position will be fixed. Top will be 0. Left 0 as well. Width will be 100%. Height 100% as well. Then we will set a background or a RGB color to the background. So let's set this to 0, 0, 0, and then 0.5. And then the index, I want it to be 999. I set the z-index to 999 because I want the overlay to appear behind the pop-up. If we look at the map, we see that the overlay doesn't appear, but if we delete this first line, it immediately shows up on the screen. It's this gray screen with transparency. Let's set the display back to none and set the styles to the pop-up. So let's type .popup. Display will be none as well because I want the pop-up to appear after. Actually, we can set the code of the display after all of it. So position will be fixed. Let's start with this one. Top will be 50%. Left 60%. Let's see how it's going. Okay, we can see that the map returned to the original position because we set the position of the pop-up to fixed. Now let's type transform translate minus 50% and then minus 50% as well. Then I want the background with the following code: F5 ECE 3. Finally, padding, I want it to be 0. Border radius, something like 10 pixels. Let's take a look at how it's shaping up. We already have some changes here. Back to VS Code, I will now create a box shadow with the following values. So let's start with 0, 4 pixels, 8 pixels. And since I want a transparency, I will set the color to 0, 0, 0, 0.1. And the z-index must be higher than the overlay, so this time I will give a value of 1000. And finally, I will set the width to 100%. Let's see how it's looking. So the pop-up is too large, as you can see. Let's go back to VS Code and I will add max-width and set this to maybe 800 pixels. Okay, looks better, but there's more work to do. I will now apply styles to the overlay when it appears. So I want to display a block and then position fixed. Let's do a similar thing to the popup.show. So this time for the pop-up. This one, the display will be block as well. But now I will set an animation to the pop-up when it shows up. So animation, I want it to be a slide in. And I will set these values. 0.5 seconds is out, forwards. So these styles we created will only be triggered when we will apply JavaScript to these elements. Let's now add styles to the content container. So let's type content-container, open brackets, and the first style will be display. I want it to be flex this time. Align items, I want it to be stretch. Let's now move to the next one. This will be the text-container. And I want it to be flex 1. So I want the text to be on the left side. So I will set this to 1. Padding, I want 20 pixels. And let's see how it's looking. Much more interesting than before. We already have the text on the left side and the image on the right, but the pop-up is filling the entire screen, and we don't want that. I will start to apply the style of the general rule since I wanted to give it more emphasis. So let's type general rule, open brackets. I want the font weight to be bold in this case. So it failed. Something it's not working. Why? Maybe the class name it's not general rule. Let me check on the HTML. Let's go to the back here. Yeah, I typed general rules. Let's remove the S from this class name. And yes, this general rule is now bold. Let's now add styles to the image inside the pop-up. So I want pop-up image. I want the width to be 50% in this case. And for the flex, I want it to be the same of the text container. So I will say that flex will be 1. Okay, nothing happens because it's not pop image, but pop up image. Let's check again. And now the pop-up is way more interesting. So we just need to move these 2 buttons to the right place. But first, let's enhance a little bit more this pop-up. So here on this pop-up image, I want to set some new classes. So object fit, I want it to be cover. Height, I want it to be 100%. And border top, right radius, I want 10 pixels because I want this to be rounded like the other 3 corners. Let me set the bottom right corner to a 10 pixel radius as well, because after we move the buttons from the bottom of the pop-up, the corner will have a sharp corner as well. So let me add this to this image. Let's now add margin 0, and now we just need to move the buttons to the right place, and we cannot forget to set the pop-up, the display of the pop-up to none. So only after we clicked on this rules button, the pop-up will appear. So first it needs to be the display needs to be none. Okay. Let's now end this part with the styles of these two buttons. Let's start with the close dash pop-up ID. So let's type close dash pop-up and open brackets. And for this style, I want this to have a position absolute. Top, I want it to be 85%. Left, 15%. So the button moved. Let's now add some more styles. Transform, translate, and I want to translate Y to be minus 50%. After that, I want width 20%, padding 10 pixels. Okay, now the button is centered to the left side of the pop-up. But now let's just change the color of the button. Let's start with the background color, and I want this 333 code. For the text color, I want maybe the color white. Let's see. Border, I want it to be none, but border radius, I will set the border radius to 5 pixels. To the 4 parts. Cursor, I want it to be pointer. Okay, so instead of the arrow, after we hover through the button, the cursor changes to pointer. Text align center, and the button is fully defined. Let's now add a style after we hover this button. So I want to type close dash pop-up over, open brackets, and I want the background of this button to change from the color 333 to this light gray. So let's see. Okay, and that's what I want for this button. Let's move to the next button, so this page close button. So this is the next that I want to place it on the top right corner of the lion image. So let's start by typing page dash close dash button, open brackets. I want the position of the X to be fixed. Top, I want 20 pixels. And right, I want 20 pixels as well. Font weight, I want it to be bold, to be more noticeable. Color, let's see this one. Okay, it's now on the correct place. Background, I want background none, so I don't want any background. Border none as well. Cursor, I want it to be pointer as well. And the index, I want it to be above the image, so I want it to be 1001. And now the button is finished. I want to apply another animation as well. So I want to do the same thing, called page, close button, then hover. And I want the color to change from that dark gray to this white color. To finalize, let's create a code that will make the pop-up open and close by clicking the rules button, the two close buttons, and as well the overlay that we defined at the beginning of this video. We can actually check this overlay now that we have the pop-up in the right position. So let's remove this display, and we can see this transparent gray background that will serve us to close this pop-up as well. Okay, so let's set the display back to none on the overlay. The pop-up can be visible for now. And here on JavaScript, let's start with another code. Let's create a description here so we know what we are doing. So this one will be pop-up. And let's start with document.getElementById. And the ID will be rules-link. And in this rules-link, or our button, I want to add an event listener of click. So after we click on the rules link, I want a function to be triggered. So this function will be document.getElementById as well, and we will select the overlay, and I want the class list to be show. So at first the overlay, the display of the overlay is none, but after we click this rules button, the overlay changes from display none to display show. Okay, so it appears after we click on the rules link. Still inside this function, I want the document.getElementById pop up, and then class list show as well. And I noticed that we forgot something here on the class list. We want to say class list.add show. Okay, so I want to add a class of show, and here for the pop-up I want to add class list add show as well. Okay, so after we click on the rules button, as you can see, the overlay and the pop-up appear. So the pop-up is still there because I didn't set the display back to none. So if I type display none here and we go back to the map, let me restart here, and you click on rules, the pop-up and the rules appear. Let's go back to VS Code, and now I want to define a function as well to close the pop-up. So after we click on these rules, the pop-up appears, but now we cannot close this pop-up. For this new function, I want to type document.getElementById close dash pop-up, add a clickable event listener, so add event listener click, then function, and for this function the first line will be document.getElementById overlay class list dot, this time I want to be remove instead of head, and I want to remove the class show. Since we want the same thing for the pop-up, we just need to copy the first line, change this from overlay to pop-up, And if we go back to the map, after we click rules, now we can close the pop-up by clicking on this close button. But we want to apply this to the X button and as well to this overlay. So after we click this overlay, I want the pop-up to be closed as well. So let's start with a new function. So let's type document get element by ID, overlay, add event listener, click, a new function, and inside this function I want to get document get element by ID, overlay again, dot, class list remove, and then show. Copy this line and change overlay to pop-up. Let's go back to the browser, click rules, and the pop-up is now closing after we click on this overlay, and we just need to do the same thing for the X button. So I'll just copy this, change overlay to the ID of the X button. It's page dash close dash button, overlay class list remove show, and pop-up class list remove show as well. Let's see if it's working. Close and overlay works, and if we close on X, it's working as well. To improve how the pop-up appears on the screen, we can now add some CSS transition. For example, a slide in effect. That's what I'm going to do. So back to CSS, let's type add keyframes slide in. Here at the top, let me see. Here on pop-up show, we had animation slide in 0.5 seconds is out forwards, so we want to apply this transition here on the bottom of this CSS page. Okay, so first I want from transform translate minus 50%, minus 100% scale, 0.8. So I want it to start from above and then scale to 100%. Let me correct this part here. And I want the opacity to start at 0. Okay, we can see that something is changing. Let's go back to VS Code, and then I want to say to transform as well, translate again, minus 50%, and then minus 50%. And now the scale, I want it to be 1. Opacity, 1 as well. And let's see the result. Well, it's not working. Let's go back to VS Code and see what's going on. And yeah, there's a space here that it shouldn't be here after translate, and as well after scale here on the line 303. So let's give a backspace here as well, and now it should work, and it's working. That's all for today's videos. In the next episode we will add some highlights when clicking on the informations, gift shop, picnic area, playground, toilets, coffee shop and parking buttons. Hello! In today's video we will create a code that shows the location of some elements of our map whenever we click the buttons on the navigation bar, just like we're seeing now on the screen. The first step is to create the circles in HTML. To do this, after the closing tag of our main SVG, we will create a circle tag. Each one of these elements will have a class name, in this case will be highlight. Then I will give a cx of 0, cy of 0 and the r equals 0 as well. The size of each circle will later be calculated automatically in JavaScript based on the size of the object that we want to highlight. One of the elements we want to highlight is the toilets, and if you remember well, you know that we have 5 toilets distributed throughout the zoo. This means we need 5 predefined circles to be used later. To do this, copy the code 5 times in HTML and only change the ID name by adding, for example, a different number after the word circle. Now that we have our 5 circles in HTML, let's go to JavaScript, and I will place here a code that waits for the page to load and then collects 5 circles from our HTML using their unique IDs and stores them in a list called circles in this case. Next, I will identify 2 specific polygons from the HTML using their ID attribute and assign them to variables. I will use document.getElementById to find 2 polygons named other house and other house 2. These polygons will be then stored in variables info_polygon1 and info_polygon2, so we can easily work with them later in the script. For the next step, we need to create a code to find the smallest rectangle that can fit around one or more shapes in an SVG, like drawing a box around objects on a map. The first function, getBoundingBox, is simple. It takes one shape, a polygon, and figures out the invisible rectangle around it. For example, if we have a house shape on our map, this will give you the rectangle that covers it. The function getCombinedBoundingBox works with multiple shapes. It starts by getting the rectangle for the first shape and then goes through the rest of the shapes and adjusts the rectangle to make sure it includes all of them. For instance, if you want to highlight 2 houses, like in this case, this function will calculate a single rectangle that fits tightly around both. In the end, this code is helpful for things like zooming into a group of objects or, like in this case, drawing a highlight box around several items to show that they are related. The next function finds the center of a rectangle and the size of a circle that can cover it. First, it calculates the middle point of the rectangle, the cx and cy, by taking its position and size. For example, if you have a rectangle around an element on a map, this gives you the exact middle of the element. Then it calculates the radius of a circle that would fully cover the rectangle. Then we need a function to update the circle. This function updates the position and size of a circle in an SVG based on the new center information. It takes a circle and the center object as inputs. Using the setAttribute method, it updates the circle cx and cy attributes to move it to the specific center point, and then the r attribute to adjust its size. The next function is designed to briefly show circles around a specific element on a map. First, it calculates how many circles needs to be displayed, ensuring it doesn't exceed the number of available elements or circles. Then, for each element, it finds its bounding box, calculates the center and size for the circle, and updates the circle to match. The show class is added to make the circles visible, and after 2 seconds it hides all the circles by removing the class show. Next, I created a function called handleLinkClick. This handles what happens when a user clicks a link or a button, focusing on highlighting elements on a map. First, it begins by stopping the default behavior of the event. If two specific polygons, info polygon 1 and info polygon 2, are selected, it calculates a combined bounding box around them, determines the center and radius for a circle that covers both, and updates a single circle to highlight the area. These circles appear briefly for 2 seconds before disappearing. If more than one element is selected, but it's not a specific polygons, the show circles function highlights all the elements. If there's only one element or it doesn't match any specific case, the show circles function still highlights it. The next line of code that I create sets up an event listener for a link or a button with the ID info link. So when the user clicks on it, the handle link click function is triggered. The function is called with specific arguments, the event object E, two polygons, info polygon 1 and info polygon 2, and then adds a scale factor of 1.4. This means clicking the link will highlight these two polygons on the map, scaling the circle size by 1.4 to make it slightly larger for emphasis. Next, in CSS, I created a dynamic highlight effect for the element circle. By default, the highlight class makes the circle invisible with no fill, and a black dash stroke that is offset by 1000, hiding it from the view. When the show class is added, the stroke dash offset animates to 0 over 1 second, making the dash line appear as if it's being drawn around the element. Then, when the show class is removed, the stroke dash offset returns to 1000, hiding the dash line again. The code is finished, but has some errors that need to be fixed. Like we see here, I clicked on informations, but the code is not working. The first part it needs to be fixed is these const circles. The word highlight is wrong. It was a typo error. I found another error on line 107. It needs to be circle0.classList.head. I forgot to place a dot. Next, I will also move the circles tag inside the main SVG. So I will cut here and paste right before the closing SVG tag. After a long time searching for a new error, I found it here on line 54. It needs to be let combine be box and remove the equal sign. Another one in line 62, combine b box needs to be with the lowercase c, and line 65 as well, a lowercase c. Finally, the last error was found in CSS, a typo error on the word highlight right here. Now if we go back to the map and click informations, the code is now working. Next, we need to create a similar code to the other elements that we want to highlight. For the gift shop, picnic area, playground, toilets, coffee shop, and the parking. Going back to VS Code, I added 4 more const variables for the gift shop, for the picnic area, for the playground, and finally for the parking. Next, as we did previously, this code adds a click event to the gift shop link, triggering the handle link click function to highlight the gift shop polygon on the map with a scaling factor of 1.4. If we go to the browser, we see that there's an error happening here. Every time I click on the gift shop, the circle appears around the element, but keeps getting bigger with each click, eventually going off the screen. To solve this problem, we need to go back to VS Code, and here on line 91, I will just change this circles dot for each to elements dot for each. Let's check the browser. And yes, the problem is now solved. Now we need to do the same thing for this new variable. for the picnic area. And let's check if the code is working. Yes, it's working right over there. We then do the same thing for the playground and as well for the parking. Let's now do the same thing for the coffee shops. So I will create a new variable called const coffee shop polygons, and inside of this I will create an array of 3 elements. Right here I found the typo errors. As you can see, I'm looking for the word coffee, but it only appears here on line 30, and I need to solve this. If I go back to the browser, for example, and inspect the element, let me try to find the coffee shop elements, and as you can see, the word is spelled coffee with 2 e's, but I only write 1 e, so I need to solve this in my HTML. So I just need to search for my element, and here on data name I just need to place another e so the word can be spelled right. I will replace the incorrect word in all the places where it appears wrong, and as well in line 54 of my JavaScript, because I misspelled the word right there as well. After this, I will copy this code snippet here and just add the number of each coffee shop before the word shop in this array. Finally, we just need to create the variable for the toilets. I will call it toilets polygon, and this will be also an array with 5 elements in this case. And let me search for the names that need to be called. WC2, copy this part 5 times and just change the name accordingly. Going to the bottom of our JavaScript page, copy this code again, change the ID of parking link to toilets link, and replace the handle click event. Let me just correct this part here. Let me check if it's working. Finally, we just need to do one more thing, that is do the same process but now for the coffee shops. Again, copy the code, change the ID in this line, and as well right here for the name accordingly. Let's replace 2 coffee shop polygons, and let's see if it's working. It's not working. Let's try to solve this error as well. Let's go to the top of the code to see if something is misspelled. Right here is coffee shop polygons. It's correct. Maybe here on coffee shop dash link, let me try to see coffee shop. And I think the problem is solved. Yes. Now these highlights are fully working. That's all for today's video. In the next one we will add shaking effects to the trees as well as a sound to make it seem like they are swaying. In this video we will create an animation for the tree elements. Whenever we hover the mouse over one of the trees, I want it to shake, emit a sound, and then we will also add a delay to prevent any glitches in this animation. Let's start by opening VS Code once again, and in the CSS file I will create an effect called shake using add keyframes, and at 0% I will write transform translate, and then I will set the pixels to 0 and 0, meaning the current position. Then at 10% of the movement I will set -5 pixels and 0 pixels, at 20% 5 and 0, and I will keep alternating these values until 100%, tweaking them until I'm satisfied with the result. I forgot to name this animation. Let me clarify. I will call this animation shake. Finally, I will create an over effect. To do this, I will check the name we assigned to this element in the HTML. We'll need to make a small adjustment here, which is to change the GID to have the same name across all the elements. I'll simply change the name to trees. Now all the elements have the same ID, and before applying the over effect in CSS, I will just import a sound file of the tree shaking into our HTML file. I already have the sound file I'll be using in my folder. In the description of this video I will also include a link to this file so it can be downloaded. Let's open it to listen. This is the sound we will use. Returning to the HTML, right after the body tag we need to insert audio with the ID over sound and then close the tag. Then add a path to the sound file using src inside the audio tag, and then type the type of the audio. In this case will be audio/mpeg. Let's go back to the CSS and create the over effect. I'll write cardinal trees over, set the animation to shake, 0.8 seconds is an out. If we hover the mouse over the trees, we can see that the effect is working. However, we want this to happen only on the specific tree we are hovering over. And we also want the sound to be played. To remove the effect from all the trees, we just need to delete one thing in the HTML: the global ID assigned to the trees. So let's go to HTML, search for trees, and we need to remove this ID here, this global ID. So just delete this, and now the effect should work. Let's see, and yeah, it's working. Now let's add the sound effect and the delay to the animations using JavaScript. Let's start by typing document.addEventListener DOM-content loaded, and the function will have a const items that will be equals document query selector all trees, and another variable oversound, and select the oversound from the HTML. Still inside this function, I will create another variable, this time a let variable. Let canPlaySound equals true, and then still inside the function I will type items.for each item, create an arrow, and then item.addEventListener mouse over, create a function, and then an if statement. If canPlaySound oversound current time equals 0, then oversound play canPlaySound equals false, and then set timeout, create a function, canPlaySound equals true, and then we define the value we want to assign. This time I will use 2000. This code plays a sound when hovering over a tree with a 2-second delay to prevent repeated playback, ensuring a smooth functionality. For example, if we remove the 2-second delay, we notice that the sound glitches whenever we quickly hover the mouse over the element. I'm going to reapply the 2-second delay, and that's all for today's video. In the next video of this series, I will quickly show how I created identical images for all the zoo animals, which will later be used. In today's video, I will quickly show you how to adjust photos to make them all uniform with the same size, and to do this I will use the free platform Canva. Let's start by creating a new design in the top left corner. Select custom size and choose the size that suits your needs. I will choose 250 by 250 pixels to ensure all the images are in a square format. Click on Create New Design, and after that choose an image to import into Canva. In this example, I will choose the animal number 1 from the project, which is the meerkats. For example, I will select this one and simply copy and paste it into Canva. Now adjust the image so it fits the entire canvas. Click on Share in the top right corner, then select Download and choose the desired format. I will choose PNG in this example. Finally, just place all the images inside a folder and give it a name, as I did in this example that you can see on the screen. That's all for today. The next video will be very interesting because we will use JavaScript to automatically manipulate various elements, such as the photos of the animals, their conservation status, and more. Hello! For this video, we will create a dynamic script that allows us to display information on the screen about the animals whenever we hover the mouse over them. Let's start by defining a div with the class name main-content, and inside this div another div with the class name char-container and the ID char-container as well. After this div, the attributes of each item will be automatically inserted using JavaScript. We will start by searching for our animals and adding a data card, assigning a unique name to each card, as I'm doing here, always followed by a consecutive number after the word card. This will allow us to make selections and display some information dynamically. After defining a card name for all the animals, we move to JavaScript and we will define a variable. So I will type const animals, which will be an array, and inside this array we will have multiple objects containing information about the animals. Next, we proceed with the ID, assigning in the card 1 we defined earlier, the name of the animal, which is meerkat in the case of the card number 1, and the image source, which will be the path to the images we defined in the previous video. I will simply copy this part of the folder path where I have the images and add the image name with the extension, which in my case is .png. I will also add a category which in the case of meerkat will be mammals and has statue bar set to true. This means there are locations in our zoo designated for specific groups of animals like the meerkats. In this case, only meerkats exist in that specific location. When there are multiple animals in the same location, such as in the savannah for example, we set the status bar to false because we only want to have a status bar for animals of the same species. We also add the situation of the animal, which for meerkats is least concern, and include the abbreviation in threat level, which will be LC. This data can be accessed on the official website of the zoo by searching for the animal's name, or alternatively on the Red List website, which provides data of every animal of the world. Next, we do the same for animal number 2, which is the tropical world. The category will be several because this location houses various types of species, and as I mentioned earlier, it will not have a status bar for this reason, so a status bar will be set to false. Afterward, we just need to repeat this process for each animal present on the map, and to keep it concise, I will now skip ahead to the last one. Moving on to JavaScript, we will create a new code that will define a function called createCard with an argument animal that dynamically generates a card displaying information about an animal. So to define the status bar, the variable status bar is set based on the sStatusBar attribute of the animal. If the bar is true, it creates a visual element, in this case a circle, to represent the animal threat level, such as critical endangered or extinct in the wild, for example. And each circle is styled with a specific class and includes a title attribute to explain the meaning of the threat level. For the card structure, the function returns a block of HTML representing a card. The card is a div with a class card and an ID corresponding to the animal's ID. And the card starts with display none, meaning it's hidden initially. An image element then is created with the source attribute pointing to the animal's image and the alt attribute set to the animal's name. The next part of this code is the card content, so inside a div with the class card content and the footer card footer is added to display the animal's details, and each piece of information is placed inside a div with the class square. For example, the animal's name is displayed using the animal.name attribute, and the animal's category is displayed using the animal.category attribute. Then adding the status bar. If the status bar is generated, for example, as status bar is true, it is included at the end of the card. Next, we create another code. First, we get the card container. So the card container variable is assigned to the DOM element with the ID card-container, and the inner HTML of card container is updated by mapping through the animals array, creating a card for each animal using the createCard function and then joining them into a single HTML string. Then we need to add an event listener to the animal path, so the query selector all method is used to select all the path elements inside the animal's SVG group, and for each loop it iterates over each path, adding event listeners for mouse over and mouse out events. Now moving to CSS, let's start by styling the main dash content. So position will be absolute, padding 30 pixels, margin left 200 pixels, and mean height 100 view height port. We can already see that the information is now appearing on the screen, and that the status bar only appears for certain animals as planned. Moving on to the card container, the display will be flex, justify content center, and align element center as well. For the card, the background color, I want it to be white, the padding 5 pixels, box shadow 0, 10 pixels and 8 pixels, and I will set the color to black with the 0.2 opacity, with 250 pixels and text align center. We now have a white background with the text aligned to the center. Moving on to card image, I want padding to be 10 pixels, max width 90%, and justify content center. Next, we will set the card footer, display flex, justify content space between, position relative, and padding 10 pixels. Moving on to the square element, the background color will be this dark gray, width 49%, height 55 pixels, display flex, flex direction will be column, justify content center, align items center as well, border radius 5 pixels, box sizing border box. Okay, it looks better now. For the square name, we can start with a color, so color white, font size 12 pixels, font weight bold. Okay, we can now see the text. Next, square text, font size 10 pixels, and color white as well, margin top 5 pixels, text align center. Okay, and now it looks way better than the beginning. Now we just need to adjust this as status bar. For the status bar, the position will be relative, height 3 pixels, background color 333 for the code, border radius 10 pixels, margin top 20, margin bottom 20 pixels as well, margin left 15 and margin right 15 as well. We can now see a bar on the bottom of the card. Let's now add styles to the circles. Circle container, the position will be absolute, top -5 pixels, width 100%, display flex, justify content, space between, padding 0 and 5 pixels, box sizing, border box. Now the text is in the correct position. Moving on to the circle itself, width 20 pixels, height 20 pixels as well, margin top 4 pixels, background color 333 for the code as well, border radius 50%, display flex, justify content center, align items center, font size 8 pixels, color white, and font weight bold. Okay, it looks way better now. To finalize, we will assign colors to each status of the animals. So to do this, we can start with the circle large LC, this one, and the styles I want will be width 30 pixels, a little bit large than the circle itself, height 30 pixels as well to be round, margin top -9 pixels. For the colors I will use the same ones that the zoo uses on its website, so I'll just search for an animal, in this case lion in Portuguese, and we can see that the least concern is a green color. So let's type the code for the color, this green, and border radius 50%, display flex, justify content center, align items center as well, font size 9 pixels, color white, font weight bold, and let's see. Let's search for one that is least concerned. This one, okay. So the other ones are still with the same style, but this one is now with this green and larger circle. Okay. So then we just need to copy this code and move some elements. For example, the background color. Or the color of the text, for example. Okay, so we just need to choose the colors we want. We can use the same ones from the official website, like I did, but it's not mandatory at all. I already have all the elements defined, so let's just confirm that everything is correct. So okay, this one is correct as well. Let's search for one that is critically endangered, this one, vulnerable as well. So everything seems correct. That's all for today. In the next video we will create a connection to the zoo's YouTube channel, making random videos appear on the map. Hello, welcome to the part 16 of this tutorial, and in this one we will link the map to the zoo's YouTube page, creating a way to automatically display videos on our web page. Let's start by going to the bottom of our HTML, and before the closing body tag, we will create a button with the class name bottom right button and the ID bottom right button as well. We will name this button videos. After the button tag, we will create a div with the ID video model and the class model. Then inside this div, we need to create another div with the class name model-content. After this last one div, we will add a span with the class name close. Then, following the span, we will create an iframe with the ID video frame. Then we will type width and set it up to 560, height 315, source will be blank, frame border set to 0, and allow full screen. Actually, let me remove the source attribute since the videos will be added in a different way. Now let's proceed to style the button we just created in CSS. So in CSS, we will go to the bottom of the page and type dot bottom dash right dash button, and we will set the position to fixed, bottom 50 pixels, right 23 pixels, padding 10 pixels and 20 pixels, background color the gray we used in previous videos, the color of text will be white, border none, border radius 5 pixels, font size 16, cursor pointer, transition, background color 0.3 seconds is, and z-index 1002. Something went wrong because the style it's not correct, so let me maybe check the HTML. And yeah, the word bottom, it's not right. Let's check now. And yeah, the button now looks the way we want. Now let's apply the style of the model. Position fixed. Z-index, since we want it on the back, we will add 1. Left and top will be 0, width 100 and height 100% as well. Background color RGBA 000.6. This element ensures that when the videos appear, the background becomes darker and will also serve as a way to close the videos, just like we did in the video about closing the rules pop-up. Then for the model content, we want the position to be relative this time, right 10%, bottom 5%, background color 333, margin 15% auto, padding 20 pixels, width 100%, max width 37%. All the videos will be played within this rectangle here that we just create. Let's now display the model to none, just for now, and then move to the JavaScript. The script we will now create sets up functionality for a model that plays videos. Firstly, it waits for the page to load, then selects key elements like the model itself, the button to open it, the close button inside the model, and the iframe for video playback. These elements will then be used to handle interactions like opening the model, closing it, and dynamically loading videos from the Zoo YouTube page. Next, we need to create an array where the videos from the Zoo's YouTube channel will be added, and we will name this array video IDs. So what we need to do to extract it to video IDs? The videos I want to appear on the map will be from a playlist that the Zoo has on its YouTube page called The Other Side in English. And to extract the IDs, we need to open one of these videos, for example this one, and we need to copy this part of the code after the equal sign. So we copy this part of the code and paste it here on the array. We place quotation marks around the link, and we place these links in the array, always separated by commas between them. After having all the videos we want, we move on to the final part of this video, which is making the code work. So this code will set a functionality to display a random YouTube video from the video IDs array when the button is clicked. So when the button is clicked, a function is triggered to handle the event. So this function selects a random video ID from the video IDs array using a combination of math.random and math.floor. It then updates the source attribute of the iframe to the select video, adding autoplay 1, so the video starts playing automatically. Finally, it makes the model visible by setting its display style to block. If we go to the map, we can see that the code is working correctly. Every time I click the videos button, a new video appears randomly. However, we still need to create the functionality to close the model, and that's what we will do next. So this part of the code adds functionality to close the model. It listens for a click anywhere on the window and checks if the click target is the model itself, and if it is, the model's display style is set to none, hiding it, and the source of the frame is cleared to stop the video playback. Let's check the map one last time to ensure everything is working as expected. So it looks fine to me. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. We're now in the final stages of this complete tutorial on creating an interactive map from scratch. So in the next video we will take a step further by adding interactive links to the Zoo social media platforms. So see you there. Hello, in today's video we will create hyperlinks for the Zoo social media. So in HTML, let's start by creating a div with the class name social-icons. Next, we create an A tag where we will insert a link. In this first case, it will be the direct link to the Zoo's Facebook page. Let me go in fetch for the desired link. This first link, and then we just need to copy this link, and we can also remove this final part here. That's the language, we don't need that. So just copy this part and then we paste it into the href right here. And finally we finish with target equals blank, so that the page opens in a new tab. Obviously next we need something to click on, but this time we won't create a button. Instead we will use an icon, in this case the official Facebook icon in SVG format. To search for this type of icons we will type icons8.com, and in this website, here on search icons, I will type Facebook. Choose one of them. I will go for the third one. And to download, click on download. Choose the format, SVG. The size as well. I will choose this first one, 50 by 50 pixels, and click download. I will save it directly on my desktop with the name FP, and then I will drag into VS Code like this. Next, we select all this code, copy it, and paste it inside the A tag we created earlier, like this. We can see that the icon is already on the map, and when we click on it, the link to Facebook opens in a new tab, just as intended. To finish, I will just create a class name for the icon in HTML. So, class will be icon. Next, we need to repeat this step for all the icons, but since it's a repetitive process, I will move on to the next part, where all the icons are already inserted into the map. As we can see, I already have the 6 desired icons here: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TripAdvisor, and now we will apply styles and correctly position each one of them. So let's open CSS, and at the bottom of the page we will start. For example, let me go to HTML, and we can start with this first one, social-icons. So .social-icons, the position will be fixed, right 45 pixels, top 45%, transform, translate Y -50%, display, flex direction, column, and align items center. We can see that the icons are already on the desired position, but they still need some space between them, and that's what we are going to do now in CSS. Let's start by changing the color of each one of the icons. So .icon and fill, I will set that light gray we are using, so the code 333. And to give some space between the icons, we'll type .social-icons.icon. Display will be block. Margin 20 pixels, 0. Transition, transform 0.3% is. Let me just correct this. The icons are now in the desired position, and now I will finish by designing the hover effect every time we hover the mouse over each one of the icons. Moving back to CSS, we'll now set the design for the social-icons.icon over. Transform will be scale 1.5. For the background color, we'll use this code here. And for the fill, this RGB, the same one. So every time we move the mouse over each one of the icon increases by 1.5 in scale and changes the color to this green. That's all for today's video. The next video will be the last one in Visual Studio Code, where we will add a button to toggle background music on and off for our map. In this new video, we will insert a sound file that will serve as background sound for our map. So in HTML, after the body tag, so we create an audio tag with the ID background-music and autoplay loop. And then we need to add the source of the audio file. Let me go to desktop and to this folder, sounds, and the sound file we are going to use is this one, background-sound. So back to HTML, we just need to add the source of this file. In this case will be first the folder sounds and then background-sound.mp3. Then we need to add the type, so the type will be audio. And then MPEG. After this part, I will then insert a way to turn on and off the sound. So we just need to create some elements in HTML. Right here at the bottom, of the HTML page, so we need to create a div with the class toggle dash container. Inside this div, a span with the ID music dash label, and we can call it background music, for example. After this, we add a toggle button, so another div after the span. We need to create a toggle switch, and we can add the ID music dash toggle, for example. We can go to CSS now and add styles to the toggle container first. So the position will be fixed, bottom 20 pixels, left 20 pixels as well, display flex, align items center, gap 10 pixels, and z-index 1000. Let's now add styles to the toggle switch. So the position will be fixed as well. Bottom 50 pixels, left 350, width 60, and height 30. Background color 333, border radius 15 pixels, cursor pointer, and transition background color 0.3 seconds, z-index 1000. Let's now repeat the process for toggle switch once again, but this time we need to add content and leave it empty. Position this time will be absolute, top 2 pixels, left 2 pixels as well. Width 26, height 26, background color white, border radius 50%, and transition will be transform 0.3 seconds. Now we need to add styles to when the toggle switch is on. So background color, this green we are using already. Then toggle switch on before. We want transform translate 30 pixels for the X. We already can see that the toggle is there. Then music label, we need to adjust the position so it stays on top of the icon. So position fixed, bottom 90, left 350, width 60 pixels, text align justify, font size 12 pixels, and font weight bold. If we go to the map, we can see that we already have this button here. So every time we click on it, the circle needs to be adjusted, and the music stays on and off accordingly. So now we just need to add a JavaScript code. This code will add a background music functionality to a web page. So first he listens for the page to fully load, and then he initializes the background music. When the page loads, it finds the audio element with the ID background-music, sets its volume to 50%, and then ensure it's paused. Then additionally, the script adds an event listener to an element with the ID music-toggle, which is a button, or in this case, a switch that we already predefined. When this element is clicked, the script toggles the CSS class on to track whether the music should play or stop. If the music toggle element has the on class after being clicked, the script plays the audio. Otherwise, it pauses the audio and resets its playback time to the beginning. Now, if we go to the map, we can test the button and see if that works. So whenever the button is green, the music starts, and then when it's gray, the music automatically stops, as we can see on the on the screen. Thus, we have completed all the steps for creating the map, with only a demonstration remaining on how it can be shared online so that everyone can see it. So, stay tuned for the final episode of this series. Hello, welcome to the final video of the series on how to create an interactive map from scratch. To wrap things up, we just need to publish the map online so that everyone can access it. So let's start by opening the browser and navigating to the GitHub page where we will be hosting our project. On the main GitHub page, we will start by clicking on Create New, the button located in the top right corner, and then selecting New Repository. On this new page, we can choose the name that will appear in the website's link. So the name in my case will be Zoo-Santo-Inácio-Interactive-Map. We can give a description if we want. I will type Zoo Interactive Map, YouTube tutorial, and then the handle of my YouTube page. The remaining options can be left as default. Click on Create Repository, and on the code page we can upload the files we have worked on throughout these 18 episodes. To do this, click on Upload Existing File and simply drag all the files into the area that says Drag Files Here to add them to your repository. So first let me open the folder where the files are. Now we just need to select all the files and drag them into GitHub. The files may take some time to upload. After all the files have been uploaded to the platform, scroll down the page and click on Commit Changes. On the right tab, we can see the languages used and their percentages. So HTML with 89%, JavaScript with 6.6, and CSS with 4.2. To finish, let's click on Settings. Then click on Pages in the left-hand panel. For the branch, change it from None to Main and leave it as root. And then click Save. Finally, we wait a few seconds or minutes, this may vary depending on the project, until the link is generated at the top of the page, as you can see here on the screen. Let's click on the link and we can see that our project is now complete and live for everyone to visit. We can do a final check to ensure that all the elements are functioning correctly and it looks like everything is working as expected. So from my side, I just want to thank everyone who followed along and watched the development of this project. If you'd like to visit the project, I'll leave the link in the description of this video. So with that, I officially conclude this series. Thank you once again for being there. Thank you for watching. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment what you want to learn next.